The Spine Race, a gruelling 160-hour, 268-mile challenge in the UK, which pushes those who take part in it to both their physical and mental limit. Among the brave competitors taking part in it this year was Manxman Orran Smith, who did so with an important local cause to support. Despite the odds and trials of this unforgiving race in sometimes brutal conditions, Orran battled the odds to beat the race, and in doing so raised thousands of pounds for an island charity. So just how tough was the Spine Race? How did he overcome the test? Well, Orran recently caught up with my colleague Rhian to tell Manx Radio all about this unrelenting yet unforgettable experience.
Congratulations. I mean, not only did you complete what a tough race, but you also came in, was it 10th or 11th?
Yeah,
I know
joint 10th.
Yeah. Amazing. Let's just start with, how are you feeling now?
I'm actually surprisingly feeling very good now. Yeah, I got a lot of recovery in a couple of days in bed. Just eating lots, really, to be fair, and keep my feet up. I think that was important because at the end of it, it's like my kind of weight had gone from the centre of my body out to like my appendages. Like my hands were all dead swollen, my feet were really swollen, and my face was really swollen.
Oh, wow.
I don't know kind of what the science is behind that, but yeah, it's like I got kind of lost a load of weight, but like
ballooned at the same time.
Ballooned at all the ends.
Well, I mean, how much sleep did you get?
So it was like probably all in all, maybe 6 hours, something like that.
6 hours over 6 days, was it?
No, so it started Sunday morning, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday afternoon, so like 4.5 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess there's not much time being horizontal then, so if you...
No, yeah.
That might be why you've ballooned.
It could, yeah. Some people who do the parish say the same thing, like their hands all balloon up and what have you.
So, how was the race? Apologies, because you've had that. I'm assuming you've had that question so many times, but how was it?
It was like, the simple answer is it was very, like, I realised that like adventures are painful, and it was painful. But the pain's starting to go away from my mind now, and I'm remembering like the views and things like that, if you get me.
Yeah.
But at the time, it like I remember just thinking to myself, like, never doing this distance again.
How was it in terms of your expectations?
Okay, so my expectations were really to finish, to be fair. Like, I had no idea where I'd come in the race. I had no kind of race plan, so to speak, if you get me. So on day one, kind of, we started running, and it just so happens that I was running with the front back at the start, but it's not because I was pushing hard. It's just because they were running really, like, easily. Mm-hmm. And just plodding along with them for a bit, and as we got to like the first kind of mountain rescue checkpoint, which is not like official checkpoint, it's just they've kind of got a little camp set up there. We dropped into there. I stopped for a tea, and them boys, like, they literally just got the water and went cracked straight on with it. And straight away then I just thought, I'm not prepared to do that at every checkpoint, if you get me. Yeah. So I got myself a cup of tea and just slowly kind of got into it and just let them kind of drift off, if you get me. And then from there, I just thought, this is kind of my own race, and I just want to kind of run it within myself and not get dragged along by anything. So, I just, in my head, was just like, I'm racing this not to compete, but more to complete.
Yeah, like, nice. And you ended up meeting and racing with, or running with, a kind of buddy along the way. Was
Clarence.
he Clarence from Sweden?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So like you said that you probably talk about low points. Like, it wasn't long after a low point where I met Clarence, and he'd had a low point as well. It's basically after Tan Hill, which is, I think it's probably about, I'm just guessing, like, it's about 140 miles into it or what have you. It's the top of like a really big climb. So you go into this, I think it's the highest pub in England, and you go in and you open, and it's really cold outside, and you walk in and it's just absolutely roasting in there. It's got a massive log burner, and there's like, it's got nice comfy couches, and he's got a bed set up at the back. He's just like, make yourself at home. You're like, the heat just hits you when you walk in there. And it's like, oh wow. So I just kind of took my pack off. Taking my pack off was a big thing for me, as just to kind of digress a little bit. But like, in training, like, I'd train like 6 hours with my pack on and stuff, but like, nothing really sets you up for, like, at that point I'd been like 35 hours plus carrying the pack on my back, and my back was just done in. My shoulders were like really sore, so any opportunity I got to take that pack off my back, I just took it. So yeah, to pack off and back, I gave him my bottles to go and fill up for me. And then I really wanted to lie down on that bed, but I thought if I lie down on there, I'm not getting up again. No. So he told me that the guys behind me were about a kilometre, kind of, coming up the hill. So I thought, I kind of, whatever I do here, I want to make sure that I'm ready to go when they turn up. Just, even though, like, I'm racing my own race, I didn't, because if they just turn up and I get chatting to them, then I'm stopping for twice the amount of time they're stopping for. So anyway, so they turn up, have a little chat with them. Then I head out. He actually told me that the Swedish guy had left 5 minutes before I turned up. So I thought maybe I can catch up with him. So heading out from Tan Hill is really renowned kind of boggy territory that it was going to head through. And I was prepared for that, but it turns out that it was that like frozen that you just broke the crust of like the top of the bogs. You didn't like proper sink into them. So I thought this is great. So I thought I'd just make up some time there, kind of made my way through there. And then maybe an hour into it, as you get close to, so like the halfway point, it crosses a road, and I thought it was going to cross a bridge, but it's actually a tunnel that I was looking for. Like, so you're running on a trail, and then there's a sign that points like directly 90 degrees left, but there's no trail directly 90 degrees left. There's a trail a little bit further along. So I thought, maybe the sign's just in the wrong, kind of sleep deprived and stuff. I thought maybe the sign's. So I start following this trail, and then my watch stops beeping at me. I check my watch, and I'm like way off the trail, and I'm like, damn it. So I start like running back to where the line was, but there's no trail. There's like no trail there at all. So I was faffing around for ages, and then I just thought, well, maybe there's just no trail to follow. You just have to make your own way. I could kind of see like in the distance, like about 1.5 miles down the distance, you could see like trucks and stuff going along the road. So I knew where the road was. I knew I was traveling the right direction. It's just like when there's walls and gates and barriers, like there's only one way that you can get through. Eventually I did found the tunnel. It was a tunnel. But as with all that faff, I'd slowed right down. I had a bit of a sweat on, which had gone cold. And I just felt like, I don't know if you ever felt it, but when you feel a cold within you, like it actually inside, like within your body, if you get me, like your body temperature dropped. And I knew there was like 11, 12 miles to go. And 12 miles to go, that tired in them conditions was like, a good like 3 hours, 4 hours. And I was just like, I started to think then I might have to like set up my bivvy and like climb into my sleeping bag at some point. And then I started thinking, well, maybe I'm just not making good decisions now because I'm tired. So I kind of got through the tunnel and then just kind of cracked on through all this moorland. But there's no path anymore. It's just making your way through this moorland, and there's just no civilization anywhere. And it just felt like so kind of isolated and alone and worrying about kind of, because there's no trail. So say I'm not even on the right trail and runners, something happens and runners are going by and they're not even passing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All these things start to go through your head. Anyway, I dropped down into this kind of outdoor visitor centre. There was no one around, but it was just like that kind of area. So I thought, if something does happen and I don't come to consciousness, or in the morning there's going to be people about here, someone's going to find me. So I set up my bivvy. I messaged to race headquarters, because when you stop for longer than 15 minutes, you have to let them know so that, they kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
So they don't start searching for you. So I let them know. I let Nikki know, just in case she was going to be worrying. I planned, this is just in my head, I planned to stop for 5 hours, which is just, I shouldn't have even planned to stop for that long. My legs were exhausted. My body temperature dropped dramatically, and I felt like I just really need to get my sleeping bag. I need to get some rest, and then I'll be moving much faster in the morning and things like that. So I did that. Nikki was like, you can't stop for 5 hours. You got, I'll give you a message in 2 hours or what have you. So it gets in my bivvy. Immediately it felt warmer as soon as I got into my sleeping bag. But within, I must have nodded off. And when I opened my eyes, I was shaking really aggressively. So I kind of knew there's something wrong there. I put my hand down the side of my sleeping bag, and it was just absolutely freezing cold. What had happened is, so when you sleep in a bivvy, you kind of have to have your head outside the bag.
Yeah.
So the condensation kind of gets out. But because it was so cold, I put
pulled
my
it
head
up.
inside,
Yeah.
condensation built up, and it starts freezing. And then it's like a layer of frozen water all down the inside of my bivvy and in my sleeping bag as well. So I thought, I'm going to have to start moving now. Anyway, Gets out of my sleeping bag, goes to put my trainers on, and they were like all compressed and frozen.
Oh no.
I know.
It's like a film.
I know. It was so bad. And the laces, because I've been running through bogs and things like that, they'd kind of accumulated water which had frozen, and then just more and more water frozen on top. So there's like 2 ice cubes instead of laces. And I was like, I can't get these. I was thinking I'm going to have to like go 8 miles through moorland and stuff just in my socks. Like I was banging them off the wall, nothing was happening. So I ended up getting my jet boil out, boiling up some water. I made some hot food just to get my body temperature up. And then I had a little bit of water left. So I went to kind of pour that on the laces. It didn't really do much, and I thought that's just going to start freezing now as well. So I panicked, and I just started biting my laces, started biting all the ice off my laces. I managed to get them free, and managed to get my shoes on. I let Nikki know that I was going to start moving again. It starts moving. About 5 minutes later, Clarence comes up behind me, and we just chat about how, like, he'd found a shelter somewhere, and he just bivvied down inside the shelter for 3 hours. But yeah, so from then we were just talking about how scary it was for both of us, and like maybe we could use each other and, you know, crack on and get through this. So yeah, we kind of made a little bit of a pack there, and then when we got to Middleton and Teesdale, we got some warm food on us, changed our kit. I said I was going to get another 20 minutes sleep. He said that's a good idea, he's going to do the same, and we took it off together.
You've had all the mind games, and you've met up with Clarence. You
Yep.
guys have decided to sort of stick together. Leading up to that point, would you say that was your lowest point?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the point. All of that messing about with the trainers and things like that was like really worrying. So just getting going was a boost, and then kind of coming across Clarence, having some things in common, that was another boost, and the fact that he'd kind of been fairly struggling fairly similar as well recently, that was another boost, really, to be fair. So we said let's make our way to Middleton together, and then, you know, see how we get on from there.
The mental strength and the mental resilience, because I mean, it speaks volumes going through that. And when you, like I mentioned just before, when you were telling the story, it was so easy to visualize, and the mind games that would go on, you know, with that lack of sleep, being that cold, not having a trail, you know, sort of thing. So I think it's hard to train yourself to be mentally resilient.
Yeah.
So how did you find that battle?
So I kind of, prior to that, I had been like seeing things and stuff like that dropping into hores. It's almost like a dream. Your brain starts dreaming whilst you're still awake. So I was already kind of second guessing myself. So I think that's what it is. It's just like always kind of reflect on the decision that you just make, or the decision you're about to make, and just kind of just run it over in my head a couple of times just to make sure that it is the right decision. And if it wasn't the right decision, you know, perhaps there's, you know, have I got 2 options? Have I got 3 options? Which, you know, what other potential kind of downfalls of, say, option 2, option 3?
Yeah. Sort of constant analysis. Yeah.
Constant self-analysis, yeah.
So we've talked about your lowest point. What was your highest point?
Do you know what? You said you'd ask me lots of things that other people would have asked me, and no one's asked me what my highest point was.
Really?
No, I don't.
The McDonald's at the end.
If there was one, it could have been. I think the highest point was probably not a point on the trail, but just like, the highest point was, like we were just chatting outside, is like the people. Like the kindness of like general public. Like once we dropped down off Crossfell, it was like 2:00 in the morning, and these people were welcoming us into their house, where they gave us some soup and tons of rounds of toast, and just chatted to us, helped us kind of build our morale up and all that. And they didn't have to do it. They weren't even volunteers. They were just people who just cared, really.
It's lovely. I think in those like extreme moments when you're so vulnerable yourself, when people step up just out of, like we just said, the kindness of their own hearts, it's really adds another level to the whole experience. Absolutely. It kind of, to be proper cheesy, it kind of makes your heart get bigger just a little bit as it's been like proper shrinking and freezing. Yeah. That's amazing. And then you went on to not only finish, because you said there was only a 51% finish rate, but you finished joint 10th.
I know.
Incredible. Were you expecting that?
No, we weren't. There was one moment though within the Cheviots where we'd gone past Safety Hut 2, and we were heading to the last little climb. I think it's called the Shill, before the 4.5 mile descent to the finish. And we could just hear something behind us, and we both turned round, and there was a runner coming out of nowhere. We could see for miles behind us and miles in front, and we couldn't see anyone apart from mountain rescue people and what have you. And this guy just comes out of nowhere, and it's like, we just stop, and he's like, "All right, fellas," and then he just cracks on past us, and we both look at each other, and we're both thinking the same thing: is like, do we chase him? And then we're like, wow, and it's just like, we both just kind of shrugged our shoulders and was like, we're in it to finish. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to chase this dude down, and we just kind of watched him just run off into the distance while we cracked on at our own pace. And then once we got down off the mountain and we were just walking down the road, probably about 2 miles from the finish, I says to the clowns, I'm like, well, if someone else comes along now, we're just going to get knocked right down. And he goes, do you know what? This is what I liked as well. He goes, do you know what? If someone comes along now and they run past us, he's like, I'll be so happy for them, because they must have pushed so hard to get there. And then right before the finish, they managed to take 2 more people. And for us, we just wanted to finish, and that kind of solidified that we just wanted to finish. And yeah, I mean, if that would have happened, it didn't happen. Otherwise, we'd have been joint 12th or what have you. But
that's lovely. That's a really sort of generous thought.
Yeah. I like that perception of it.
Yeah, really, really generous. And was it a conscious effort for you two to cross the finish line together?
Yeah. We'd both decided that way back when we were probably before we started climbing Crossfell. It was because he was struggling going up Crossfell, and he had to keep on stopping for breath and stuff like that. So I was just stopping with him, what have you. And then descending was similar. But then on the last day, I think because he's from Sweden, he's used to kind of hiking through snow and all this stuff. And he was just moving way more efficiently through the snow than I was, especially on the flats. And he was just waiting for me. And I felt like a bit of a burden to him there. But I know that it went the other way, when we were climbing Crossfell.
Well.
He needed me back then when we were climbing Crossfell. So I was just like, you know what I mean? It was good. We both waited for each other. We both helped each other out.
I was really that was one of my favourite parts of watching you, is seeing that you'd obviously made a connection with someone. Yeah. And were using that person to get through the emotional and the mental turmoil of the challenge. And absolutely. I thought, you're going to come out of it finishing it in an incredible place, also making a really incredible connection with someone, and he's going to remember that forever.
Yeah, we both will. Yeah. So, we both. I think that's the thing that connects all of us. Is the reason why I did this whole thing in the first place is because I felt what Chris was going through. Obviously I couldn't feel exactly what he was going through, but I felt something, and it's his pain that made me care. And I think if you got rid of all of pain in the world, then you'd also get rid of all of the caring in the world, because that's when we feel someone else's pain, we feel it, and then we start to care, don't we? So
that is a really, really lovely outlook. Really lovely. And talking about that, so you'd originally set the bar lower than $5,000, and then you got to $5,000, and now you're past 10 grand.
I know, yeah.
Incredible support. So how much money are you sitting on at the moment? And just remind us again who that money is going to go to.
Yeah, okay. So we have got to £10,649, which is way more than I thought we'd ever get to. So I'm blown away, and I have to say thank you to everyone who's donated, everyone who's followed the dot, everyone who showed their support as well and shared the post, etc. Thank you to you for doing these interviews and the guys at the paper and what have you. And the money goes to the MS Society. And I just got some Derek Patience, who's the director. He sent me some things. So it goes to funding of an MS welfare support officer, a professional care specialist via Crossroads who provides care, support and guidance to MS patients, their families and carers, providing grants to enable members to buy specialist equipment, electrical scooters, off-road walkers, etc., funding of respite care and essential home modifications, installing bedroom hoists, ramps, wet rooms, etc. These modifications often enable MS patients to continue living in their own homes, funding specially adapted exercise classes, including yoga, Pilates, and chair-based exercise sessions. Also, they've just begun aquatherapy classes this year. Also holding regular social events with coffee mornings and things to enable those living with MS and their carers and families to socialise and discuss common issues that come up. Funding regular specially created MS drop-in meetings with health professionals and social services to discuss and help meet needs of people living with MS, and purchasing specialised exercise equipment for the physio development facilities and also facilitating awareness days in which a variety of speakers provide input on and discuss various aspects regarding living with MS.
Brilliant. So all well delivered. So your money is going to have a huge impact, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
And we were talking just before, what's next?
Okay, yeah. So the next big one for me is UTS Snowdonia, which is, I think it's the 12th of May that one starts. And that is, it's 100 miles in the Snowdon National Park. And it is, I think it's about 33,000 foot of elevation, which is quite close to the elevation that I've just done in the spine race, but compressed into 100 miles, so like bigger mountains and more of them.
And if you could take something from the spine race going forward in other races, but also kind of, without going too cheesy, life in general, what would you say you've learned that you're going to take forward with you? Just to
hang in there, because something's going to happen. Something will change. Something, as bad as it gets, there always seems to be, as long as you just stay in there for a little bit longer, it's just going to get easier. It's not always just going to get harder.
Thank you for having the stamina to make it to the end of the Manx Radio Sportscast. You're clearly someone who has their eye on the ball at all times. Want to hear more about the latest sporting news across the Isle of Man and much more? Then might I recommend you take the plunge and subscribe to this series or a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so that, in a flash, all of our finest moments take a winner's place on your smartphone. Thank you.